Hello, everyone. This is G, and I'm back with my review of episode 3 for Masters of the Universe Revelation. This episode had its good points and its bad points, and all of its bad points center around the red haired with the bad haircut here. In particular, a very important scene, probably the most emotionally um, I guess, significant scene in the episode, which is this long conversation, long scene between Teela and Man at Arms, who is the gentleman quite literally kneeling before her. So to sort of give a brief summary of what happens in this episode, it's actually a lot happens in this episode. When it comes to like pacing, this is probably the fastest paced episode. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's very action packed and it's very just bop 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 bop. Right, so it really did pick up the pace with the second episode being fairly by the numbers. This one was actually very chaotic in a sense, which I think is a good thing. I just think that Teela's characterization uh, ruins everything because, in my opinion, this is the episode, at least of the three I've seen, and there's five, so there's two left. Right, this is the episode that completely ruins her character, and I'm honestly not sure she can be redeemed. Right, who knows what's gonna happen in the second half? Apparently, there's another 5 episodes coming up. Right, but this episode is probably the absolute worst for her character because, and I don't like to swear, but I'm going to swear because this episode, all of its major points and plot beats revolve around just how much of a manipulative bitch Teela is, especially when it comes to Duncan. She quite literally gaslights Duncan into cooperating with her. The most heroic person in this episode actually is Duncan. Duncan's the most heroic one. The most sympathetic characters, in my opinion, interestingly enough, are Orko. Orko finally comes back. The performance for Orko, I have to say, is amazing. I know a lot of people are sort of mad at the voice actor for Orko because he was on Kevin Smith's live stream, and when Kevin Smith kept denying that he ever did anything bad to Clownfish or anything. And I can kind of understand why people are mad about that. But his voice acting in this show as Sickly Orko, oh my god, it tugs at your heartstrings. I don't agree with what Kevin Smith did or was going to do, which is, I think, kill Orko in the very next episode, right? And I don't consider showing a sickly Orko to be building him up, right? So I do not agree with the creative direction that Kevin Smith took here with Orko, especially since he doesn't play much of a role in any significant way in the first episode. He doesn't appear at all in the second episode, and here in the third episode, right? He's brought back, but again, he's basically near death. He's dying. But the voice acting for his scenes is absolutely amazing. His scenes may be the best part of this episode. And interestingly enough, Evil Lynn is surprisingly sympathetic. She's not necessarily a good person or anything, but the funny thing is that this episode confirms, right, that Evil Lynn is deeply in love and devoted deeply in love with and devoted to Skeletor, right? Which is a big change from the original, from what I understand, because in the original, Evelyn, she was a henchwoman for Skeletor, but she wasn't necessarily personally attached to him, right? There was even, and I think I said it in another video recently. There was an episode in the original show where she and Teela have to survive a night in the desert together, and they get to talking, and Teela, even asks her, like, why are you with Skeletor? And she's like, I don't, it's not anything, personal, that she's just looking to take over and betray him at some point. So that that's not present here at all. Evil Lyn is legit in love with Skeletor, right? She even teases Teela early in the episode, saying that, and this is what Evil Lyn says. She literally says that she's not the only one carrying a torch, and she says this directly into Teela's ear, right? And then at the end of the episode, when they're all about to go into Subternia, so they're about to go into hell to go get one half of the power sword, she has like this. It's more or less Skeletor's head or the head of his staff, and they had to use that to open the gate to hell, right? So right before she walks down the steps, it's a literal stairway into hell. I guess they were like, well, the stairway to heaven, it doesn't exist here, but she literally, right? You see her staring forlornly at it, and she goes and she stuffs it in that bag that she's wearing, that satchel bag, before she goes down, which really does make her siding with Skeletor at the end of episode 5 make perfect sense. She's in love with the man. I'm like, the crazy thing is that while I may not agree with her being in love with him, right? But I don't agree with it. But at the same time, just taking the story as it is, it's actually beautifully uh, characterized. I guess is the word I'm looking for. It's beautifully characterized, and the voice acting is actually really good. I wasn't really sure how I was going to feel about the English accent for Evil Lyn, and I can live with it. It's a give and take, but I actually, but that aside, like the voice actress, right? She's very good. They pretty much stuck with what was in the past, right? In the original one, what's her face? Evil Lyn had a very deep husky voice, right? She had this very hoarse voice, sounding like the stereotypical evil witch, right? So they keep the husky voice here, but this time it's a bit more, it's kind of like snarky, seductive, English woman type of vibe. But it does work here. It does work here. And the voice acting for her is actually really, really good. And actually, the way that they show, without telling too much, that Evil Lyn is in love with Skeletor is actually really well done. Again, she goes back and gets the skull head. She teases Teela by admitting, right, that she herself is still carrying a torch in a very indirect way. And she even says at one point when they're sailing through this like icy waters that she was devoted to Skeletor. So they actually did very well characterization wise, without being too blunt about it, that she's in love with Skeletor. She never says, I'm in love with him, but the hints she does give point clearly toward that. I will give credit where credit is due. You did great with her, and then you absolutely butchered Teela and made her a colossal manipulative bitch. Right? But here's the thing. So here's how the episode sort of goes. So in the beginning, they're in this woodland or whatever. Teela's cutting down vines, and she and what's her face? She and Evil Lyn are sort of going back and forth, about the old days, right? And well, actually, sorry. The episode opens up with a flashback of He-Man and Teela fighting Skeletor and Evil Lyn and like a bunch of pirates. The pirates factor in a little bit later, but the flashback itself doesn't really do much for the plot or anything outside of just sort of foreshadowing the fish pirates. But outside of that, it doesn't really do anything. We don't really see any real bonding between uh, He-Man and Teela or anything. So it doesn't do much for the character development of Teela or to move the plot. And then we get to the present day where Teela and Evil Lyn are sort of bickering, and Evil Lyn talks about you know how He-Man and all this other stuff, and she actually gives surprisingly good life advice throughout this episode about don't fall in love with a dangerous man and all this other stuff. And again, she teases Teela about having a crush on He-Man and all that. And then it goes to the town, right? And we see this elderly guy. Um, we see him spill some magical water, and the townspeople start getting mad at him. They start getting pissed off at him and threaten to attack him because they don't have a lot of magical water left because magic is dying in Eternia, right? So this is when Man at Arms finally makes his big introduction in a really cool scene. Although I am tired of people being in very obvious disguises. I mean, first you had Teela and Andra in those face masks, and then you have Evil Lyn, literally looking like an older version of herself, and now we have Duncan being reintroduced, being the hooded, mysterious hero of the town, and all that other stuff. So he comes back, he defends this old guy. Then the cyber priests come and they start a fight, and that's when Teela and her gang show up, and that's when she and Duncan. It seems like it's the first time they've uh, met or have been in the same area as each other in a while. And Duncan, and this is one of the parts that got me so pissed off. Duncan literally drops down. This scene, and the scene I'm about to talk about, is where this image comes from. Duncan literally gets down his hands and knees and begs for forgiveness from Teela. He bows down before her like she is Queen Marlena herself. This is absolutely ridiculous. And the funny thing is that Evil Lyn throughout the episode keeps lampshading how they don't have time for all the family drama. It was one of the few points in the episode that I sincerely thought was funny. Right? So he literally kneels down before her, apologizing. And I'm just like, no, no, no. First of all, he has nothing to apologize to her for because He-Man's secret wasn't for him to tell. It wasn't his place to tell anybody, right? Because Adam swore him to secrecy. But even if for some reason he feels like he needs to apologize to her for whatever, what parent in their right mind literally kneels before their child and begs for their forgiveness? It's Teela. It's Teela the Brat. It's not King Randor. It's not Queen Marlena. It's not God. Teela is not worth kneeling toward anybody for. No, 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 no. But anyway, Teela eventually tells him that she needs him to come with her because he needs to reforge the power sword once they retrieve the two pieces in heaven and hell. And firmly states, excuse me, he firmly states that he can't do it because of the fact that if he does it, then he will be executed, right? And then later on, Teela, again, they have this big conversation about family and everything. And Teela literally gaslights the man. She literally gaslights him because she asks him again, and he explains again, no, I can't. And then she's like, but what about Eternia? I'm like, no, she didn't. No, this bitch didn't. How is she going to play the Eternia card? Not one damn thing we have seen her do since she left the Royal Guard at the end of the first episode. Not one damn thing she has done has been for the benefit of anybody but herself. She hasn't done what Duncan did. We don't see her do that. Defend a defenseless uh, uh, regular citizen, right? everything she has been doing has been about herself, right? Her revisiting her past, her running into people that she used to know, like Evil Lynn and the sorceress and everything and all that. Everything has been about her and her anger and her pain. She even she's just flat out insulting, and she calls Duncan a broken old man who's still too attached to the crown and everything. But he tells her that look, he can't go with her because he has to look after his family. And this is when they introduce Orko, and you see sickly Orko, and again, he has great moments talking about how he wants to go out on one last adventure because he's sick and he's dying. And he talks about how life is outside and he just wants to live one more time. It's very heartbreaking. And then we get introduced to Robata, who's, according to the way it's described in the show, literally the robot man at arms, right? And uh, Man at Arms explains that he loves Teela, right? He loves Teela, but this is his family now, and he has to look after them. I'm like, thank you, Duncan, thank you. The funny thing about this show that I've seen thus far is that for all the trouble it does to either murder or emasculate its male characters, like they're doing with Duncan here, their male characters are still the most heroic ones in the series. He-Man acts like a hero. He protects the people. He dies to save Eternia. Um, Man at Arms initially doesn't join Teela because of the fact that he feels that he needs to help protect the townspeople and help Orko, right? So that's the interesting part. Even Orko, right? He just wants to have one more moment um, in the sun, right? He doesn't want to die in bed. So it's actually been the male characters who have been the sort of heroic anchor, the examples of heroism in the show, where it's been Evil Lynn, um, Andra, and Teela, who are sort of your like Charlie's Angels esque protagonist female trio, who have, especially Teela, because here's the thing, I I want to put it like this: the main issue is Teela. Evelyn's personality, the way she's snarky and the way she behaves, makes sense. She's an evil woman in love with an evil guy. That's fine. I understand her characterization. It's okay. Right? Andra doesn't have much of a personality outside of uh, gawking over Teela's past and her stories and all the people she used to know. She's sort of like the wide-eyed adventurer type character. So there's not enough there for me to get mad at. But Teela is such a manipulative bitch. And this is the protagonist of the story. And she has next to no redeeming qualities. I will admit, finally, she actually does show some emotion and some tenderness when she sees just how sick Orko is. Which makes me wonder, were you like not keeping tabs on some of these people? Like, okay, I understand maybe her not keeping tabs on her old man because she's mad with him, but you're not going to keep tabs on Orko? You're not going to try to at least have some idea of what's going on with him? Why is everything news to you? Why is everything a surprise to you? Her characterization, it's all of the issues from episode 1 turned up to 100 in this episode, and it really, 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 for me, makes her unlikable. No, she's not a woman in grief. No, she's not a woman in love. No, she's not a woman dealing with anger and betrayal. And no, 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 no. She is a selfish, manipulative bitch, and she plays on the sincerely heroic characters, on the traits of right sincerely heroic characters like Man at Arms to get them to do what she wants. That's what it is. So after all of a lot of the emotional beats, the family drama stuff, They end up. Teela tells Man at Arms to go to Castle Grayskull to go protect the sorceress. Right. So Teela, Beastman, Andra, Evil Lyn, and Roboto and Orko go on this boat and they travel through this icy sea place, the Crystal Sea or whatever it's called. And that's where they get jumped by. That's where they get jumped by the fish pirates from the flashback earlier, right? And then Man at Arms is actually the one who makes the big save, which is cool. And he has the best fight scenes thus far in this show, honestly. But and they're all in this episode. But what's interesting is that Teela again, right, the master warrior and everything, right? She's Batman. They pretty much confirmed it in the second episode that when it comes to fighting, she is Batman. She can take on multiple opponents. We never see her really fight in the boat fight. She doesn't fight. Andra doesn't fight. Evil Lyn doesn't fight. It's just all um, uh, Man at Arms, which I could understand to a certain degree if, again, if those three girls had been incapacitated in some fashion, but they're not. You see a few of the fishmen hold weapons at them, but it's like that should mean nothing to Teela. She's had weapons pointed at her all her life. That shouldn't mean anything to any of them, but maybe Andra because she's the sort of like young rookie here. But they basically just stand around doing nothing. These experienced warriors stand around doing nothing, not even trying to help Man at Arms while he has his big damn heroes moment. But then once they get the fish pirate situation under control, they get to the entrance to Subternia, so to hell. And again, that's when we really get the confirmation that Evil Lyn is deeply in love with Skeletor. When she literally goes back to go get the skull head, right, and put it in her bag before she literally goes down to hell, right? So yeah, I mean, I've seen other reviews and whatnot that talk about how Teela and Evil Lyn sound like angry ex-wives, and yeah, there's definitely a vibe, especially on Evil Lyn's part, right? But hers makes a lot more sense because she actually is deeply in love with Skeletor, right? I haven't gotten a sense yet that Teela's in any way in love with He-Man, but Evil Lyn is definitely 1 second. She is definitely in love, Evil Lyn, with Skeletor, right? So her griping, I can understand. Teela, I don't quite as much, but yeah, I mean the whole griping ex-wives talking about how their men held them back. Yes, that part is indeed true. It does indeed fail the Bechdel test because whenever they're talking to each other, they are talking about the men that they lost, right? And of course, if you are one who goes by the Bechdel test, well, then that's not terribly feminist, now is it? Right? So, let me share my notes that I took for this episode. Again, these were written as the episode um, went on, right? So, here we go. We have opens with another flashback that doesn't matter to the plot or Teela's character development. Finally, we get that He-Man sass. Just a one-liner, though. Evil Lyn gives good relationship advice. Don't fall in love with dangerous men. I think Evil Lyn just admitted she's in love with Skeletor. So she goes from wanting to overthrow him to loving him. I thought this show was supposed to be about freeing women from men. If Teela is carrying a torch, she doesn't act like it. Man at Arms is back. Cyber Cult is back. Can we stop hiding people's identities like we don't know who they are? How do you build up Orko to die if he's hardly in the show? Right? How did Teela not know that hooded guy was Duncan? Why is he bowing before her and begging for forgiveness? He doesn't have anything to apologize for. Older Duncan looks cool, nice hair. I do like the whole age samurai look. I agree with Evil Lyn. No time for family drama. Family drama should be private. Duncan is a hero. Poor Orko. Why would the king and queen banish Orko as well? That's something else that's never addressed because Orko says that he was banished in the aftermath of what happened to He-Man, right? But it's like, why would the king and queen banish him as well? Orko had nothing to do with it. You can understand Duncan at least because Duncan is the man at arms and he's supposed to be protecting He-Man, but what has Orko got to do with it? Right? But anyway, finally Teela shows some emotion. She hugs Orko. And here's the part where again I was talking about the emotional beats and how she gaslights Duncan. This is the part where I wanted to scream and spit at the same time. Teela is a guilt-tripping man-at-arms with a duty to Eternia. She hasn't helped one regular person, has only been motivated by her own desires, but pulls the Eternia card on man-at-arms. Brat, she hasn't been a hero in the least so far. Teela is a bitch. She's gaslighting man-at-arms. You didn't let anyone down, Orko. Teela let you down. Roboto is a robot man-at-arms. Man-at-arms doesn't owe Teela a damn thing. He did nothing wrong. Justice for man-at-arms. And then we have this. Evil Lyn says Teela went on and on about He-Man, yet we never see that. We never see Teela go on and on about He-Man. Evil Lyn is a scorned ex-wife. She gives good life advice, though. Orko gives good life advice about journals. Record your memories. Man-at-Arms saves the day. That's the when he comes to save them from the fish pirates. The great warrior Teela stands around doing nothing while Man-at-Arms wrecks the fish pirates. No abandon all hope joke? What I mean by that is when they approach the gate to hell, right? Given all of the puns that they try to throw into the show occasionally, I was expecting a reference to, Dante's Inferno, right? Abandon all hope, ye who enter here, right? Evil Lyn is in love with Skeletor for sure now, and I've gone over that when she goes back to retrieve the skull head. Right, so that's the episode. It's probably the strongest one of the three thus far, but also Teela is the biggest fracking problem. Right? So it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Or I guess it was the best of episodes thus far, it was the worst of episodes thus far, and it's all because of the angry redhead in the center. But anyway, please let me know what you think, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good day or night wherever you are. Bye.